Not only did I manage to pick up the Nintendo Switch 2, but I also got as many accessories as humanly possible. So not only are we gonna unbox everything today, we're also gonna take a first look at the Nintendo Switch 2, and I'm so excited. However, it is currently 12:30 in the morning, so we're also gonna have a bit of a drink to get through this. All right, let's get going. You see, we arrived at our local game store at about 10:30 p.m. with just a few people in the queue. But by the time we actually got to go in, the queue was massive. Thankfully though, it was pretty well organized. We got in, collected all the stuff that we pre-ordered, and even picked up a few things we didn't pre-order, and left as quickly as possible so that we could get home and open this box. Now, I actually wound up buying the Mario Kart version of the Switch too, because it just worked out to be so much better value for money. But I am sad that it was digital and not physical. But, oh, I did that completely the wrong way. There it is! Okay, we've got the unit on the top. That's so much heavier than I imagined it would be. Even at the preview events, we didn't really get to hold it without it being like chained to something. So you didn't really get to judge how heavy it is. My gosh, that's the screen. And they did warn us when we were in the shop that there would be a thin film on the top that you were absolutely to not peel off, or else it would void your warranty entirely. But taking a close look at it, I can't see the film at all. So I don't think you're in that big a danger of accidentally peeling it off. Okay, next we have the Joy-Cons. These generally feel so nice, and there's like a fresh Nintendo Switch box smell that I cannot get enough of. I guess before we get on to anything else, we're gonna do it. It's so easy. It's so easy to do. And it's really easy to detach them as well. And there's not much give whatsoever. I don't think this is gonna be an easy thing to break. Although that being said, I can't get over how teeny tiny the kickstand is. Nintendo, I love the OLED kickstand. What are you doing with this one? Okay, the next question is, what actually is in the box? So we have, for a moment, I thought this was a physical and that I'd got this completely wrong, but we have the Mario Kart game code up top. We also have how to redeem it. You've got your important information, which I will never read. So that's going over there. We have a ultra speed HDMI cable. If you have a 4K TV, you're gonna wanna use this one over your Nintendo Switch one, that's for sure. And then we have the Joy-Con straps. Wait, are these the ones that you use for the mouse mode? Or do these go on all the, oh, these are the things you put on your Joy-Cons when you're using them for mouse mode, which we're gonna have to test out. I don't know how many games have mouse mode as of right now though. Okay, let's see what's underneath. We've gotta have the dock in here somewhere. Okay, over here we got the charger. In case you didn't know, UK plugs are absolutely massive. So this is chunky. We've also got the wire that goes with it, which is USB-C to C, which we like. And then in here, I was wondering if this was going to come with the Switch 2 again. You have the shoulders, although this is different from the rechargeable one that you can buy because there's actually no shoulder buttons. So there is one big difference between this and the ones that are on the shelf right now, which means that this final piece over here is the dock, and it is beefy. Look at it. It's huge. Now, I was interested to see what actually is in the back of this. I don't know if you can take the back panel off. You must be able to. You've got two USBs on the side, and then I guess we need to pop off the back. There it is. And inside we have not only the HDMI, the power, but there is also an Ethernet cable slot, which I didn't expect because only the OLED has that on the original Switch model, but we'll take it. Hopefully that means the download speed's faster. Okay, now we've seen the Switch itself, let's move on to some of the accessories. They didn't have all of them in the store that I went to, but they had some of the most important ones, like the Pro Controller. Now I'm gonna be honest, if you already have the Nintendo Switch Pro Controller, I don't know that you're gonna need this one, but I couldn't resist. So we got more safety. We also got a USB to USB-C to charge it. And then we have, they're so well wrapped. Now there are a few differences other than the giant Nintendo Switch 2 logo between this and the other Pro Controller for the Switch. And the main ones are this C button right here, and also the shoulder buttons on the back, which I really hope games make use of because they're really handy. It feels a lot more slippery though, and a little bit smaller than the Pro Controller, I think. Oh, and there's also a headphone jack, which the original Pro Controller didn't have. But I'm really excited to see what the battery life is of this. I will say my Pro Controller lasted me the entire Nintendo Switch generation, so they can be very worth it. But I think it's time to turn the Nintendo Switch on. I can't wait any longer. I still can't get over how much bigger it actually feels in my hands. Where's the power button? I've got it upside down. What? Huh? I just realized. It's upside down. And you can put the Joy-Cons on whichever way you want. I was not expecting that. Next up was the setup, and this did take quite a while. You had your usual of selecting your region, connecting to the internet. It then taught you how to use the kickstand and the Joy-Cons, and how to attach the grips as well, which were a lot easier to pull on and off than I was actually expecting. Then came the long part, which was transferring your data from your Nintendo Switch over to your Switch 2. Now this was pretty seamless. All you had to do is go to your original Switch and go down into the settings and click transfer to Switch 2, and everything more or less happened automatically. It also reminds you before you do this to insert your SD card. But just a note, you will have to plug both your Switch and your Switch 2 into the power for it to do its thing. And then all you gotta do is wait. And oh boy, was it a lot of waiting. But eventually we finally got to the home screen. There's a special loading screen. Oh, this is cute. And now it's gonna start downloading all the games that I had. I cannot get over just how crisp the screen looks. I've spent so much time not only playing on my OLED, but also on the Rogue Ally and the Steam Deck OLED, and I cannot get over how good this screen looks right now. It is very, very shiny. Now the Switch itself also feels really sturdy. I'm really liking the buttons, and even though I have smallish hands, it's not feeling massive. I was a little bit worried this would be super uncomfortable to hold. I think by far the part people are going to struggle with the most playing in handheld is how heavy this thing is. It is significantly heavier than the OLED and even the original Switch. One thing I didn't really pick up on until I saw the Switch 2 in person in my own home is the fact that it is in fact a little bit glittery. It's not super obvious, but there is definitely a little bit of a glimmer to it, and I really like that. And it's in both the body and the Joy-Cons. The real issue is, I don't know what to play. I have so many options, and I don't know what to start with. I think the first thing I am the most interested about is how the eShop is gonna work. Okay, the eShop actually looks so much more different than the Switch's version, even the updated one. But the question is this laggy? And it's actually not too bad. I'm really surprised. I really wonder how the upgrades are gonna work though, because I have Breath of the Wild with me here. Now I already had the highest tier of online membership, so for Breath of the Wild I didn't need to pay anything, I just needed to click download. But before I close the eShop, I also want to get Mario Kart downloading, because I honestly don't know how long it's going to take. And while we're in the eShop, I'm also going to download the upgrade pack for Fantasy Life for a whole £2 to see how this looks on the Switch as well, as I've been absolutely obsessed with it on PC, and it looks okay on the Switch, but I really want to see how it looks on the Switch too. Now, by far, the worst part of setting up the Nintendo Switch is waiting for all of the games to download. My biggest regret was not taking a nap at this point, honestly. Okay, it took a little bit of time to start downloading all of the games, but we've got a couple to try. And the first one I want to try in handheld, at least, is Breath of the Wild, because I want to see what it's like to put a game into the Switch too. Now, the Switch was a little bit of a struggle for me to be able to open up the game cartridge slot with these nails. So let's have a look at how this is. Oh, that's so different. What? Look at this part. I don't know if I love that or hate that. Okay, so the game goes in here, like it did with the normal Switch, and then it goes down. That's so weird. Okay, let's test out the screen. Also, let's see, we're not even on maximum brightness either. Okay, it's finally ready. Let's get into Breath of the Wild. Okay, I think the best way to show off how this looks on the Switch 2 versus the Switch is to load into one of my save files at Korok Forest, okay? Now, if you remember, Korok Forest was possibly one of the laggiest areas in Breath of the Wild, and right now it's playing like absolute butter. This is the way Breath of the Wild should have been played, and not the way that it was on the Nintendo Switch. Not that there was anything wrong with it. I absolutely loved it on the Switch. But this just looks absolutely incredible. And this is most definitely now the best way to play and experience Breath of the Wild. I want to go to another area in the daylight though. And even though this isn't an OLED screen, I think the HDR kind of makes up for it. And it's definitely safe to say this looks nothing like the original Nintendo Switch screen. This is a night and day difference to that. So it's definitely not a big downgrade from the OLED. And I just can't get over how smooth the game looks on the Switch too. Now, I also think that this is quite a glossy screen. There is a little bit of glare from the lights above me, but the brightness is pretty good. I'll be interested to see how this looks like when we go outside. The other game I'm really interested in seeing in handheld mode really quickly is actually Fantasy Life. Now, if you see my YouTube channel, you know I've been playing an ungodly amount of hours in it. But the Nintendo Switch just wasn't doing it for me. The game looked okay, but nothing like it looked on PC. So I'm really interested to see if this bridges the gap ever so slightly. It even says Nintendo Switch 2 edition. I love that. Now, they basically just said there's going to be a better resolution and also frame rate. But already just looking at this, the colors look so much better. This honestly looks just like it looks on the Steam Deck. I'm also interested to know if they've given us any more options. No, well, you know, we can't win them all. Now, this is a game that just released, so I think this truly shows the big difference in capabilities between the Switch and the Switch 2. The fact that not only does this look so much better, it's also running in at least 60 FPS compared to the Switch version. This was one of the games I was the most excited to see on the Switch 2, even though it hasn't been out that long, and I'm genuinely very impressed. Also, so far, I haven't really heard the fans go at all, even though it's been on for a while. It's kicking out a little bit of heat and it's getting a little bit warm, but it's not too bad so far. But I think it's time for the part I am the most excited for, and that is seeing what it looks like docked. And it honestly felt a little bit bittersweet removing the Nintendo Switch dock to fit in the Switch 2 dock. But I do think visually it was a little bit of a downgrade. Now, because I have a 4K and HDR TV screen, it did make me go through some settings to make sure everything will look good. But once I'd done that, I was ready to go. And obviously the first game I wound up playing was Mario Kart. Now, I've played an awful lot of Mario Kart on the Switch, and honestly, this felt like such an upgrade. But I was genuinely really impressed, not only with how the game looked, but also how much of the environment interacted with each other. Now, the first mode I wound up playing was actually the knockout mode, which is the brand new mode to Mario Kart World. And this basically sees, I think, the bottom 4 players be knocked out every single lap. Now in 50cc, this is pretty chill. In 150cc, this is chaos, and I cannot wait to see what this is going to be like in multiplayer. I also obviously had to give the Grand Prix mode a go as well. And not only does this introduce a bunch of new tracks to the game that we've never seen before, it also introduces racing between each of the tracks. And again, whilst playing this in 150cc was fun, it's really going to be the multiplayer that brings in the chaos. Although I was surprised to see there's no 200cc in this game. We do, however, have new items, new characters, new tracks, and the open world to explore, which I haven't even got to yet. Now, I haven't spent a lot of time with the game, so I can't tell you if it's worth it or not right now. But I am excited to sink a lot of hours into it, and it does look really smooth on the TV. Now, I do want to quickly touch on the Pro Controller with the time I spent on it playing Mario Kart. Now, aside from the main differences, like there being back buttons and there being a headphone jack, I actually think the biggest difference is both in its feel, because it has this soft matte feel to it, and also in the way the sticks move. They definitely glide way more than the Pro Controller did on the Nintendo Switch. Do I think it's worth buying a brand new controller for? Probably not, but I don't think you're going to be disappointed with it if you do wind up getting it. Next up, I really wanted to check out Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, as this is actually one of the games that got an update for free by Nintendo, and we all know it desperately needed it. Now, the game, without a shadow of a doubt, is running way better than it did on the Switch. This is the first time I've ever seen it hold a solid 60 FPS. But I was a little disappointed to see that pop-ins were still very heavy. So although it is most definitely looking a lot better, I still feel like there is a long way to go to make this game look like it belongs on the Switch too. But then again, this was free, so I'm just glad that they did something to make it better. Next up, I decided to go back into Fantasy Life just to see how it looks on the TV versus how it looks in handheld. And again, this is a huge improvement from the way it was looking on the Switch, even when docked. And although I wouldn't say it goes quite to being PlayStation 5 levels of graphics, it does get a lot closer than I thought it would. There is just one thing to note though. Unfortunately, that line I pointed out when I was talking about the Nintendo Switch version in my review is still there for the Nintendo Switch 2 version. So hopefully this is something that gets patched out soon, because once you see it, you can't stop seeing it. The last thing I decided to do with my night, which was now a morning, was revisit Zelda on the big screen. It felt like a very full circle moment going back to the game that made me fall in love with the Switch to begin with. With HDR on, this game just looked phenomenal on the TV. I couldn't be happier with all of the optimization that they've done for it. And I haven't even experienced any of the new stuff that they've implemented into the game with the paid update. And this makes me very excited to dive into Tears of the Kingdom next time I boot up my Switch 2. Right now it's time for the rest of my Switch accessories. Alright, I bought some of the other things that Nintendo was selling to go alongside the Switch 2. First of all, we have the Nintendo Switch 2 webcam. Now, if you're going to buy a webcam, I do suggest you buy this one over this one. And although this one looks absolutely great, this one's 480p and this one is 1080p, which is probably going to make a huge amount of difference. But I bought them both so we can take a look at them. I'm curious to see how big this actually is. Judging by the box, it's not going to be huge. And this just comes with a cable. Oh my gosh, it's tiny. I don't have big hands, but this is minuscule. It's actually quite heavy as well, though. Look at it. It is absolutely minuscule. So I assume the plug just goes in on the bottom there, and then it plugs into the Switch. It's come with a USB-C to USB-C, which means it goes in the top of the Switch and not in one of the USB ports, which is also kind of interesting. The cable's surprisingly long, and we just put it in there. Oh, that's so ugly. And then put that in there, and it is good to go. Next, let's have a look at the Hori one. This one's also so much smaller than I expected. Okay, that is really heckin' cute. And then this part plugs in. Oh, I broke it. How does, oh no, that just attaches. This part plugs in like that. And then you put the little leaves on. Oh God. Like this. This comes with, I don't even know what that cable is for. I'm gonna be honest. And another USB-C to see. I will admit though, this is hella cute. It even has this little part here so you can get it facing whichever way you want it to. I assume when you plug it in that this little guy's gonna open because there is no mechanism anywhere for it. But yeah, it's just a shame it's 480p. I need to find a game to use these though. I also picked up the official case because if I'm gonna be taking it on the go, I really do need to make sure that it's safe. This comes with a screen protector in it as well, which is not that. It is in there though. Oh my gosh. There it is, which is probably the most needed accessory of them all. The Switch case is cute though. This is sleek. And it's even got the colors on the side that match the Joy-Cons. Okay, I really do like that. Let's just see what's inside of it. I mean, it's not like the most heavy duty case in the world, but it's better than nothing. And it's even got a little section here for some of your games and your little peripherals. It's fine. Is it overpriced? Probably, but it will do the job until I find a better case, that is. Now, the last thing I bought is actually a game, and this was the only physical game they had there that wasn't Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, Mario Kart, that also had the entire game on the game cartridge. So I thought if I was going to buy a physical game to see what the carts look like, I might as well make it one where you actually get the game on it, you know? One thing I really like about the boxes of these is that it carries the color and the box art across onto the sides of them instead of it all being red. It is a shame they got rid of the inside box art though. I did really like that. They came with stickers as well. Okay, I wasn't expecting that. I wasn't expecting that. Look at them. And we now have the red cartridge as well. Now I do have my Breath of the Wild here as well to compare the sizes of them. These are more or less the exact same size. I am glad they're different colors though, so you can tell them apart, and they have different logos on the top. I guess the most important question of all is, does it still taste the same? And I guess as the last thing that I'll do today, I'll put that to the test. Now, if you don't know, they put a coating on these to stop kids from eating them, and it's a rite of passage to taste how disgusting they are. Oh, that's so much worse than the other one. Oh, that was really bad. Maybe it's not a rite of passage. Oh, that was gross. That was truly gross. That's it for my first impressions of the Switch 2, but don't worry, I'm going to be live for the whole of this week, trying to catch up on all of these games that have just released. And if you want to see my Nintendo Switch funeral, click this video here.